भगवान की जय, जगत गुरु शिल प्रभुपाद की जय, शिला गुरुदेव की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरे हरि बोल. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today we are starting the next text, so next verse of Sri Nectar of the Nectar of Instruction, text 2. So I think Sanjay Prabhu has very nicely actually he has actually gone through the text one actually. I think it was being discussed for many weeks, which is good. Very important actually instructions. So these are actually the codes of Krishna consciousness, the do's and don'ts. So first of all, actually, I thank His Grace Ambrish Prabhuji, Her Grace Pun Pragya Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhu for actually training me and actually giving me opportunity to actually share my realizations and actually take you through this actually text 2 of Nectar of Instruction. So let me check if I have the actually ability to share the screen. I think I do. Okay. What? Okay. Can everyone see the screen now? Okay.
Yes.
Which one actually sharing? No. Mm. Mm. Actually, I'm not able to share the multiple screens open up. Okay, just a minute. Okay, can you see the actually Nectar of Instruction verse?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So I will recite the verse first, and then actually you can use the same meter. So we will actually expect everyone to actually recite and try to memorize this verse. अत्याहाराः प्रयाश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनासङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति अत्याहाराः प्रयाश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनासङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति अत्याहाराः प्रयाश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनासङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति अत्याहाराः प्रयाश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनासङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Okay, so we actually will get everyone from the intermediate class devotees first to recite this verse, and then actually if anybody from leaders sangha as well want to actually join recitation, they're welcome to do so. Okay, maybe start with Divansh Mataji. Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for conducting this lecture, and thank you so much, His Grace Ambrish Prabhuji, for Grace Puna Pragya Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishnadas Prabhuji for giving us this platform. Atyaharah prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangashcha lalyam cha षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. Should I recite more than one time, Prabhuji?
Yeah, maybe recite twice, everyone, so it
Okay.
should go.
Okay. अत्याहारः प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति.
Yeah, Srishti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you Prabhuji for taking our class. Thank you Hare Grace Purna Praja Mataji. Thank you His Grace Amrish Prabhuji. Thank you.
It's okay, Mother. That's fine. Thank you. You thank Shital Prabhu. That's fine. No need to thank us. Thank you very much. And he thanked on behalf of everybody else. Okay. Thank you very much. Please just thank him and continue the program. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
त्यहारा प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. अत्याहारप्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति.
Yeah, Pradhin Prabhu, can you recite the verse, please?
Sorry, Prabhuji. I'm getting a little confused. Sushi Mataji, you can say this. Thank you. That's good. Then let's continue. Because tomorrow when you preach, then they should thank the teacher, you, and us also. Okay. So good one. You can say that. Thank you also. I'm sorry about this. Well, I'll keep my ears shut because I don't like this kind of glorification. But I think it is necessary in Kali Yuga. Please excuse me. You can continue the point. Thank you. Hare Krishna. And others can do the same as well.
Thank you, Sanjay Prabhuji. Thank you, His Amrish Prabhuji, Purna Karna Mataji, and His Krishna Prabhuji for training us and giving us this platform. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhakti vinashyati. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha षड्भिर भक्ति विनश्यति.
Was the Om Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah.
Thank you, Shital Prabhuji. Thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhuji, Her Grace Purnapradya Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Krishna Prabhuji for organizing these classes. Hare Krishna. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha शब्दैर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. आत्याहारः प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौल्यं च शब्दैर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति.
Krishna. Okay. The soul. I think anyone from the leaders Sangha want to recite verse?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Shital Prabhuji, for your class. Thank you, His Grace Amrish Prabhu, Her Grace Purna Prajna Mataji, and His Grace Krishna Samarpan Prabhu for conducting these nice classes. Hare Krishna. अत्यहार प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रह जनसङ्गश्च लौलं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति. अत्याहारः प्रयासश्च प्रजल्पो नियमाग्रहः जनसङ्गस्य लौल्यं च षड्भिर्भक्तिर्विनश्यति.
Okay. So we'll now do the word-to-word synonyms and translation. So Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. Ati aharaha, overeating or too much collecting. Prayasaha, over endeavoring. Cha, and. Prajalpaha, idle talking. Niyama, rules and regulations. Agraha, too much attachment to, or agraha, too much neglect of. Jana Sangaha, association with worldly minded persons. Laulyam, ardent longing or greed. Cha, and. Shad bihi, by these six. Bhaktihi, devotional service. Vinashati, is destroyed. So, just looking at the word synonyms, overeating or too much collecting, over endeavoring and idle talking, rules and regulations, too much attachment to or too much neglect of, association with worldly minded persons, ardent longing or greed, and by these six, devotional service is destroyed. Okay, so we'll come to the translation. Once devotional service is spoiled, when he becomes too entangled in these following six activities: eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Number 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being ready for mundane achievements. Okay. So this translation actually is very, very important, and we expect, all the intermediate class devotees to actually memorize the verse and also the translation, because they are very, very important actually verses in Nectar of Instructions. So we will try to actually recite them as much as possible, so you can actually memorize them, and you should actually practice it, in your own time as well. So you should be able to remember it, in a week's time. So probably we'll actually go through, everyone actually go and actually recite the translation as well, once only. So we can actually begin our discussion on the purport, okay? So don't wait for me, actually, you just follow the sequence.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. One's devotional service is destroyed when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them, or rejecting the scriptural rules and regulations and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Actually, before I mentioned Samji Prabhuji, but of course, thanks to him too. But thank you, Shital Prabhuji. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities. First, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Second, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Fourth, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Fifth, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements.
Yes. Who's next? Om Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. First, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Second, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Fourth, practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulation of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Fifth, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements.
Translation. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. First, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Third, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulation only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and walking independently or whimsically. Fifth, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And sixth, being greedy for mundane achievements.
Okay. So these actually Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashidis, there are 6 activities, they are actually detrimental for one's devotional service. Okay. So these are, as I said, these are the do's and don'ts. Or actually on the path of actually, if you want to actually get to the stage of pure devotional service, one has to actually implement this instruction practically in their lives. So these are the actually don'ts. This thing one should be actually carefully actually learn these things, and one should not actually indulge in any of these actually 6 activities, so that actually you can nicely progress on the path of devotional service. Okay, so we'll go through the per part, and then actually we will actually discuss all these 6 points in detail. Srila Prabhupada has given us very elaborate per part, and all the points that was mentioned is very, very important. So we cannot just brush through it. So I think it will take quite a few weeks to actually go through the per part and actually discuss all these points, and also actually we will also deal with all the questions that you may have during the process. Okay, maybe who would like to read? Any volunteer? Okay, yeah. Maybe start with Dinesh Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Human life is meant for plain living and high thinking. Since all conditioned living beings are under the control of the Lord's third energy, this material world is designed so that one is obliged to work. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has 3 primary energies or potencies. The first is called Antaranga Shakti, or the internal potency. The second is called Tathastha Shakti, or the marginal potency. The third is called Bahiranga Shakti or the external potency. The living entities constitute the marginal potency and they are situated between the internal and external potencies. Being subordinate as eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas or atomic living entities must remain under the control of either the internal or external potency. When they are under the control of the internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in the devotional service of the Lord.
Okay,
This is stated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 13.
just a minute. So here, the first statement, Srila Prabhupada made, the human life is made for a plain living and high thinking. Okay. So actually, one has to actually meditate, on this actually instruction. Because it's very, very important. So what does it mean by plain living and high thinking? So as you may have actually already experienced, you have been following this program for many years. So the plain living actually on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has instructed us for a devotee, one who actually want to actually control, their senses, by engaging in a devotional service, So it is actually instructed for a devotee to actually accept, very simple ahar, So we will discuss that point, atyahar, simple prasadam, and actually only actually wear, very simple clothing. One should not actually work hard to actually run behind to get something that is opulent, So that will actually is also beneficial. We'll not unnecessarily become attached to these things. Try to keep our life very simple. And that point is again further, and Srila Prabhupada has very nicely explained in this purport. So we'll discuss that in detail. So plain living and high thinking. So high thinking is the actually our thoughts should be about the higher realities of the life. So that which goes beyond this actually material world, So that is actually in relationship to the Krishna, or how to become actually God conscious, So actually one should be actually engaging one's intelligence, and thought process. How to actually, one can become God consciousness, God conscious. So our effort should be directed in that actually direction. So it will help us to progress further. And here it is now, Srila Prabhupada said the conditioned living beings, so that pretty much all the actually living entities in this material world, they call conditioned, they're not liberated soul, they're conditioned. And they are under the actually control of actually the Lord's third energy. So here, as it is actually described, there are actually three potencies of the Lord, the Antarang Shakti or internal potency, Bahirang Shakti, the external potency, and the Tathastha Shakti, that's a marginal potency. So the living entities belong to the marginal potency, right? So you must have heard this before, but they actually, if you not, then actually we should actually memorize, all these actually these three potencies of Lord, because this will again come during the actually when you study the Bhagavad Gita, and further scriptures. They are very, very important. So the Antarang Shakti or internal potency, so that is actually, it is said that is actually the personification of internal potency, the Srimati Radharani. And the personification of external potency is normally, as we call Maya Devi or Durga Devi, And the living entities, who's Tathastha Shakti, And it is said that the living entities which belong to the marginal potency, they can be either under the control of internal or external potency, okay? So this is very important. It is not said that, actually everyone will be under the control of actually Maya Devi or the external potency. It can be either. So choice is given there. It's a free will. Actually, if you actually engage yourself in serving Krishna and his devotees, then you automatically under the protection of internal potency. But if you are actually not actually serving Krishna, if you actually very much engaged in just enjoying yourself, enjoying your senses, then you will be actually put under the actually control of a external potency. And it is said that actually being subordinate as an eternal servant of a supreme personality of Godhead, the Jivatmas, atomic living entities, must remain under the control of either internal or external potency. And when they are under the control of internal potency, they display their natural constitutional activity, namely constant engagement in a devotional service of the Lord. Okay, so our natural constitutional position is actually we are the eternal servitor of the Lord. Okay, so this is very important. So that's our natural actually position. So now actually most of us are actually under the control of external potency, because we are not engaged in service of the Lord. But actually when we revive our long lost relationship with the Krishna, and when we happily actually engage in serving him or his devotees, then we are actually situated in our real natural position. That is actually constant engagement in devotional service. Okay, so that is described in next actually the Bhagavad Gita verse, chapter 9, verse 13. Okay, maybe Devanshu Mataji will continue the reading.
Yes, Prabhuji. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 13. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritimashritah bhajanti ananyamanaso natva bhutadamavyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. The word Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. Cripple-minded persons, always engaged in satisfying their senses, sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others through some ism, like nationalism, humanitarianism, or altruism. They may reject personal sense gratification for the sense gratification of others, like the members of their family, community, or society, either national or international. Actually, all this is extended sense gratification, from personal to communal to social. This may all be very good from the material point of view, but such activities have no spiritual value. The basis of such activity is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when a person gratifies the senses of the Supreme Lord can he be called a Mahatma or broad-minded person.
Okay, so here Srila Prabhupada is giving the reference from Bhagavad Gita. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha bhajanti ananya manaso nyatva bhutadim avyayam. So here the definition of Mahatma is given. Okay, who should be called Mahatma? And who should be called Duratma, right? So here is said that actually those who are not deluded, the great soul, they're under the protection of a divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. So this is a Bhagavad Gita definition of a Mahatma. Okay. So Mahatma is only interested in serving the senses of Krishna. He's not interested at all to serve his own senses. Okay. So in a simplistic terms, okay, to remember this definition, because in material actually world, in today's world, Kali Yuga, we have given this actually designation Mahatma. So we call Mahatma Phule, Mahatma Gandhi. But actually, when we look at their activities and the definition given here, there may not be similarities, right? So actually, when we read the next purport here is given that Srila Prabhupada called that Mahatma refers to those who are broad-minded, not cripple-minded. So cripple-minded person, they they are engaged in satisfying their senses. Sometimes expand their activities in order to do good for others. So some isms, okay? So yes, there are great personalities, who are not very much concerned about themselves, but they have doing the service to the community, to the nation, to the larger cause, But Srila Prabhupada actually called it a extended sense gratification, okay? So you extending the actually concept of sense gratification to your, maybe your family, maybe your community, to social level, and even to the national level, okay? It can be broadened, but still it is a sense gratification, okay? We are concerned about the sense gratification of our dependents. So yes, actually, we call them actually, they are the actually great personalities, but actual Mahatma is only interested in satisfying the senses of Krishna. So here, Srila Prabhupada is actually giving the example of the different isms, nationalism, humanitarianism, altruism. So the nationalism, actually, especially it's a buzzword today. Actually, nationalism, you can look around, today's actually politics around the world, and you will see many examples of being actually there are many leaders who are nationalists, who are actually working in the interest of their own nations. So there is actually people who are actually working to uphold the actually human rights, right? So we can see the many examples as well. And altruism. So do you know what the altruism means? Yes, anyone?
Charity, Prabhu. Charity, giving away things, like helping the poor and everything.
Yes, yeah. So altruism, actually, if you look at the definition given here is actually selfless, uninterested act, which is done for the good of others, So yes, sometimes people give charity, but there is always a hidden motive. But that is not altruism. So if somebody is acting selflessly, but always, you can always, there is a question that, oh, is there any activity that is selfless, so even people actually, they do things so that actually because they feel good, okay? So there is always a some kind of satisfaction they are actually gaining by doing such activities. But, in the today's world, it's called selfless activities. So in that sense, I was actually thinking, even the devotional service, Srila Prabhupada actually, he went to the America, and actually he spent, he dedicated all his time in spreading Krishna consciousness. So he was not looking for any gain from any of those people that he preached, right? He was not looking for any material gain. He was not looking for any benefit. He is actually purely actually concerned. And he said that actually the people in this material world, they are unnecessarily suffering. So he can see that everyone is suffering in this material world. And that's why he said that it's very important that we should preach this actually message of Krishna consciousness to everyone possible, so they can be relieved from their miseries. So definitely it may sound like actually a selfless activity. Yes, we are not looking for anyone's, actually we're not taking credit, or we are not actually gaining anything materially. But because this is done for the pleasure of Krishna, he's actually implementing the order of his spiritual master. So this is in relationship with the Krishna. So it's not altruistic activity, it's a devotional service. Okay, so because sometimes you are preaching, you're doing a food distribution, and people call that, oh, you're doing a charitable activity. It's not charitable activity. Okay, it is actually being done as a service to the Krishna. So we have to actually, make this very, very clear that actually any service that we do as a devotional service, so be it actually you're doing a preaching or prasad distribution or doing any activity, that actually will be aimed to bring people to this actually path of Krishna consciousness, is actually devotional service. It's not actually charitable work. And Srila Prabhupada says that this may all be very good from material point of view. He's talking about the nationalism, altruism, and etc., all those things. Yes, actually, it sounds like a good activity, when you look at that superficially, but it has no spiritual value. The basis of such activities is sense gratification, either personal or extended. Only when person gratifies the senses of a Supreme Lord can he be called Mahatma. Okay. So it is very, very clear that's why we say that actually, doing these actually activities like, building hospitals, building schools and all that, is not actually, has no spiritual value, because this is not done actually in a spirit of actually serving Krishna. So food distribution could be altruistic activity, but prasad distribution is completely different, because we offer it to the Lord first and we distribute. And the intention is to actually help them so that they can actually make some progress towards Krishna, right? So we have actually discussed these points when we actually studied Nectar of Instruction, I think in your previous actually batch as well, or in Sri Shubhnashid as well, that how actually prasadam acts, when we actually distribute the prasad, when person accept the prasad, honor the prasad. So this is just not food, by actually accepting it, that will actually help them to purify their material body, all the cells in their bodies are actually purified. And ultimately, actually the brain cells, they are also get purified. And when they are purified, it is said that in Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says that once the brain cells are purified, a person actually can think up a nivritti marg, so he can actually get attracted to the path of devotional service. So he get that intelligence, So sometimes, people think, oh, this is just very palatable, good food, people are attracted. So Srila Prabhupada, actually, he used to call the gulab jamuns, they used to distribute as a prasadam, as a bullets of ISKCON, right? So, it was very interesting, the bullets of ISKCON. So you can actually distribute them and actually you can bring people to the Krishna conscious activities. So here, actually, Srila Prabhupada says that, so there is clear differentiation between what is a devotional activity and what is actually, all these isms. That is nothing but an extended sense gratification. Okay. So you make note of this because this is very important, as we actually study the further verses. And when you study Bhagavad Gita, this is going to be very, very helpful, because all these points are also, they are actually discussed in a great detail in Bhagavad Gita as well. And you also very clear about who should be called Mahatma. Yeah. So it's very clear. Okay. Yeah. And also the Duratma, Duratma, that actually one who actually pretty much engage in satisfying his own senses, so personal sense gratification, so that actually encompass, a lot of living entities in this material world who are only interested in actually giving happiness to themselves. So we are basically Duratmas. Okay, let me go to the next paragraph. Okay. Maybe Pradhan Prabhu, you want to read now?
Yes, Prabhu. Okay. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita, the words Devim Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested at Srimati Radharani, or her expansion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. When the individual Jiva souls are under the control of the internal energy, their only engagement is the satisfaction of Krishna or Vishnu. This is the position of a Mahatma. If one is not a Mahatma, he is a Duratma, or a cripple-minded person. Such mentally crippled Duratmas are put under the control of the Lord's external potency, Mahamaya.
Okay, so here actually Daiving Prakritim, so that means the control of an internal potency or pleasure potency of Lord Krishna. So the internal potency is actually personified, that is a Srimati Radharani or her expansion, the Lakshmis. So the goddess of fortune. So we should actually, these are all actually technical things, one should actually make a note and always remember. So when we actually talk about internal potency, so we also talk about, Srimati Radharani, their expansion as Lakshmi as well. And external potency, as I mentioned, so it's a personified form is called Durga Devi as well. So here, actually, the Mahatma and Duratma, actually mentally crippled Duratmas are put under control of Rolls external potency. So the Mahatma, actually, he's not under the control of external potency. So he is already above the modes of material nature. So in Bhagavad Gita, actually in chapter 7, it is actually very nicely explained that actually once actually the soul, he completely surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, So he actually, he can able to go above the modes of the material nature, okay? So we are, because we are not actually surrendering, or we are not surrendered to Krishna, we are very much controlled by Maya Devi, or this material energy, because now we are trying to become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada, he said that when you actually start to walk on this path of actually devotional service or becoming Krishna conscious, sorry, just a minute. So when one start to walk on this path of actually devotional service, or he want to become a Krishna conscious, Srila Prabhupada says that we pretty much declare a war against Maya, Maya Devi. And when actually the Maya Devi, she become very much interested, because this process of becoming Krishna conscious, so as Srila Prabhupada described, that's actually we declare the war against the Maya, because we try to actually get out of the clutches of actually this material energy. Then actually we are actually put under difficult test, actually she will actually test us that how much we are interested, are we ready to fight? And actually when actually we prove ourselves that actually we are really serious and we really want to actually surrender, and actually we accept the instructions that we receive, through the scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, or the instruction that we actually learning in this program from our actually from spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Amrish Prabhu, and all the actually, the devotees who are actually teaching all these scriptures, when we implement this scripture practically, and then actually when we prove that actually we are very sincere about actually becoming actually Krishna's servant, when Krishna is satisfied, it is said that then actually he orders actually Maya Devi to release that actually soul from that actually control, so that's how, so the solution here is to actually the complete surrender. And surrender is not just bowing down in front of the law. Surrender is actually implementing all the instructions coming from the Lord, in your life. So that is real surrender. Okay. Right. We'll continue with the purport.
Indeed, all living entities within this material world are under the control of Mahamaya, whose business is to subject them to the influence of threefold miseries. Adi Devi Klesha, sufferings caused by the demigods such as drought, earthquakes, and storms. Adi Bhautik Klesha, sufferings caused by other living entities like insects or enemies. And Adhyatmik Klesha, sufferings caused by one's own body and mind, such as mental and physical infirmities. Daiva Bhutatma Hetavaha, the conditioned souls subjected to these three miseries by the control of external energy suffer various difficulties.
Okay. So here, Srila Prabhupada now is describing that how living entity in this material world, they suffer various miseries. And here is actually, they technically they described, actually they have been subjected to these threefold miseries, So Adi Daivik Klesh. So this is a suffering caused by demigods, such as droughts, earthquake, and storm, right? So we see that this is happening, in this world. So we have seen the droughts, we have seen the earthquakes, the storms, or tsunamis, and we call it a global warming, right? So all these things are happening. So science call it a global warming because, and this is getting worse and worse. So this is actually interesting point, one should meditate. So if this is happening because of the, what we call it is Adi Daivik, So this is because of a prakop of the devatas, So why they actually causing a suffering? Why they actually want to cause a suffering to the living entities? Anyone know?
Hare Krishna. Is it like in the earlier days there were sacrifices for demigods, but I think people are not really concerned about that in nowadays.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we should actually know the cause, actually, Otherwise, people just say, oh, the devatas are only interested to actually want to actually cause the harm. Okay. So actually, when the soul is born in this material world, he's using, all these facilities, he's using the water, he's using the earth, all the things that we see, So there is a control given of all these material energies to a specific, actually, the devata, So they are the actually controller. So as a Indra, he controls the rain, right? So you may actually remember from the past time of Lord Sri Krishna, the how actually Indra, he was actually, because he was a control of rain, and in Vrindavan, Giri Govardhan, so that actually Leela, right? So they used to worship all the actually the Brajvasis, they used to worship Indra before, but when Krishna actually appeared there, he kind of actually told them there is no need to do that, so that is their duty to manage that. And better you worship the Govardhan, because Govardhan is giving, actually grass to all the cows, the food to all the actually inhabitants. Actually, there are many trees were taking the fruits. So we should worship, So that actually the Leela, we don't go into that actually Leela, but the point is that actually if you're not actually serving Krishna, so Krishna is called the cause of all causes, So if you're actually serving Krishna, then actually we basically all the demigods, they become satisfied. So these devatas or the demigods, the control of various energies like the rain, wind, sunlight, all that, So if you're using that, you become indebted, So you should actually do some offering to actually please them or satisfy them. So in the Vedic system, so all these sacrifices were used to be performed. But as it is actually, said in Bhagavad Gita, that actually, if you are actually serving Krishna, if you're serving Lord Mukund, then as Krishna is called cause of all causes, so there is analogy given. If you give the water to the root of a tree, then that water will be equally distributed to all their branches, leaves, twigs, flowers, fruits. So Krishna is just like that root. So if you serve Krishna, then all the branches and leaves and twigs and flowers, they may represent various devatas. They also become satisfied. But in today's world or Kali Yuga, as you see, the most of the population is godless. Okay, in India you will see, there is a lot of people actually they are actually kind of a god conscious or mostly actually demigod worshippers, for material gain. But if you look at the rest of the actually world, I think not many people are actually interested in becoming God conscious. So they are using all these facilities and they are actually not actually appreciating that or actually doing any sacrifices to please them. So obviously the reaction you're going to get. Okay, so that's why it's called Daivik Prakop, So all these earthquakes, the tsunamis and all that, that can actually happen. So this is actually, I just wanted to actually make this clear point, because even I actually got the same question, yes, the suffering caused by demigods, but why demigods want to actually, they cause you the suffering? What is the reason behind that? Okay. So the next one is Adi Bhautik Klesh, the suffering caused by living entities like insects and enemies. So this is all the living entities, around us. They also cause us suffering. Even mosquitoes is causing us suffering. They're biting you, they're making you sick with the malaria and all those kind of stuff. So you are actually suffering as a result of a small mosquitoes or insect. So other actually, the human beings, they can become your enemies. They want to hurt you. So we see that everywhere. So the living entities, they will cause you miseries. Even your own family members, they can actually cause you miseries, not to actually think about anybody outside. You can see there are so many problems within the family, and that can cause you a lot of anxiety, mental anguish, and you also see a lot of crimes being committed and all that. So that can all fit in this Adi Bhautik Klesh. And then Adhyatmic Klesh, suffering caused by one's own body and mind. Okay. So this is actually, everyone experiences this. This is nothing that is alien, So yeah, body, when we talk about body, then the diseases are already there, right? So you suffer various diseases. When you're young, you're not very much afflicted because you are in good health. But as you actually age, as you progress towards old age, more and more vyadhis, you will experience, and this process of actually becoming old is very actually, miserable anyway. So even I can actually slowly realizing, how actually body changes, and as we get old, things become difficult, So we always suffering. And actually, especially the mind is the biggest enemy. It's called empty mind is a devil's workshop, right? So our own mind can cause us a lot of sufferings. Okay, so mind and control of mind is a very big subject matter, and this is very nicely described in Bhagavad Gita. How to actually control the mind. So this is big subject matter. That mind, is always concocts. Is actually directing all your senses. So as you studied the first text, right? Vacho Vegam. So I think you actually studied that. You discuss all those points in detail. How actually mind, as a master of all the senses, has a very critical role that it plays. So if you can able to subdue the mind, by the actually as the instruction given in Bhagavad Gita, then he can become your best friend. But if you cannot, actually, as it says, the duratmas, they are very much pretty much defeated by their senses. They're actually they call there's a term they call as a godas, right? So you become actually servant of your senses, So yeah, your mind will take you anywhere, Actually, it will propel you to do the things even sometime, it is not in your best interest. Most of the time, it is not in your best interest. So actually the miseries it can cause, and is quite at a gross level. You can see, we experience various kind of anxieties, right? So we are always actually going through some kind of mental anguish, and also as per our past karmas and all that, the people also develop various mental illnesses as well. So there are many kinds, schizophrenia, actually depression, this and that. They are very dangerous, even dangerous than actually bodily diseases. So through all those things, Adi Daivik, Adi Bhautik, and Adhyatmic Klesh, actually the living entities is suffering all the time in this material world. So we will actually continue our discussion. I think our time is up now. So please actually recite this verse in your own time. Try to memorize the translation as well, and actually read the purport, and we'll continue our discussion next week. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Hare
Amrish.
Krishna, Prabhuji. If
Yes.
I had a question, I think we don't have time for it. So should we discuss it next class? Should I post it on the group?
Yeah, you can actually start posting. Yes. So I will also actually prepare and I will try to actually answer your question, but we will keep those questions and all compiled, and we will have a actually concluding session with Amrish Prabhu, so he can actually further elaborate. So all the points are actually all the questions will be answered. So please post that in our intermediate group, Mataji, please. And this is for everyone. So yeah, we actually means please do so. Even actually when you go back and